What happens to a family when the man they love becomes one of the most wanted criminals in the world?
He was one of the most wanted men by the Department of Justice with a bounty of $50 million on his head.
What happens to the woman who stood beside him and the children who grew up in the shadow of his power? Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, didn't just create one of the most powerful criminal organizations in Mexico. He created a dynasty. Authorities spent years trying to find him, calling him one of their highest priority targets.
We often talk in Mexico about kingpins and drug lords and so on. This was one of the very, very biggest.
But his story isn't just about power. It's about the family who lived inside that empire. El Mencho's real name was Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes. He led the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, known as CJNG, an organization linked to global drug trafficking operations and billions of dollars in illegal profits. His rise to power made him one of the most powerful and heavily pursued cartel leaders in the world. In 1996, he married Rosalinda Gonzalez Valencia, the woman who would stand beside him as his power grew and whose life would become permanently tied to his choices. She came from a family already deeply connected to organized crime, a family that had built its own legacy in trafficking long before she met him.
They created the Millennial Cartel.
Their marriage wasn't just personal. It was the merging of two worlds. Rosalinda helped manage the family's assets and oversaw a network of legitimate businesses that served as fronts.
Anyway, Rosalinda was the financial genius behind the cartel.
In 2018, Mexican authorities arrested Rosalinda, accusing her of helping manage the cartel's finances. The woman who had stood beside him for decades was now facing the consequences of the empire they built together. And their children wouldn't remain untouched. Their son, Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, grew up inside his father's world. Over time, he rose to become second in command, taking on a powerful role inside the organization. That position also made him one of the most wanted figures connected to CJNG.
If they can't get the dad, his son is the next best thing.
One by one, members of his family came under investigation. While her father was one of the most feared men in Mexico, his daughter Jessica Johanna Oseguera Gonzalez appeared to live a life that looked polished, educated, almost ordinary. Born in San Francisco, Jessica was a dual U.S.-Mexican citizen. She studied marketing. In a letter written in her defense, her mother, Rosalinda, described Jessica as a good and responsible daughter, adding, "She likes to help those in need by organizing food drives, toys, and money to buy blankets for the homeless and orphanages." But investigators saw something else.
Judy, Jessica Oseguera Gonzalez knows her father's secrets.
In 2020, El Mencho's daughter was arrested in Washington, D.C. Jessica later pleaded guilty to financial crimes related to cartel activities and was sentenced to prison. Reports described how, at the time of her arrest, she had been living a life that included luxury brands, a Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton coat, and an Hermes bag. El Mencho's youngest daughter, Laisha Oseguera, tried to stay out of public view, but even distance couldn't fully separate her from her father's world. Authorities later named her and her partner in connection with an investigation involving the disappearance of two Navy personnel. Despite their different paths, all three children grew up under the shadow of one of the most powerful figures in organized crime. Then came the moment that would change their lives forever.
The Mexican army has killed powerful cartel boss El Mencho.
On February 22nd, a security operation brought an end to El Mencho's life. After years of evading capture, one of the world's most wanted men was gone. For years, El Mencho lived in the shadows, but his family lived with the consequences of what he built: arrests, prison sentences, and lives permanently shaped by his choices. Because when a man builds an empire like this, his family doesn't just inherit his legacy, they inherit its consequences. A newly unsealed indictment from the U.S. Justice Department alleges that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro led what prosecutors describe as a corrupt and illegitimate government, allegedly supported by large-scale drug trafficking operations.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around.
In a public statement, U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said that Maduro and his wife, Cilia Flores, will soon face the full wrath of American justice, emphasizing the seriousness of the charges now filed in U.S. federal court. According to the indictment, Maduro is charged alongside his wife, his son, and 3 other individuals. U.S. officials allege that the group was involved in drug trafficking conspiracies and weapons-related offenses. As the case became public, attention quickly turned to Flores, a figure long rumored to wield extraordinary influence behind the scenes of Venezuela's power structure. So who is Cilia Flores? And why do so many believe the real power may run through her? Nicolas Maduro is the most powerful man in Venezuela, and many would argue his wife, Cilia Flores, is the most powerful woman.
Because for us, we are united in our souls for God, in God, and for God.
En Dios y por Dios.
But here's the thing. Her influence didn't start with marriage. Flores was already a political force long before she became Mrs. Maduro. Born in 1956 in Tinaquillo in the Cojere state, Flores grew up in a poor neighborhood of western Caracas, the youngest of 6 children. Her background is often framed as humble, and her rise is self-made, a narrative her supporters lean on heavily. She trained as a lawyer and first gained prominence in the 1990s as a legal defender of Hugo Chavez, back when he was still a revolutionary figure rather than a head of state. After Chavez's failed coup attempt in 1992 landed him in prison, Flores offered her legal services while he was incarcerated. It was also during this period that she met Nicolas Maduro, then part of Chavez's security detail. From that point on, their political paths, and eventually their personal lives, became closely linked. When Chavez was released from prison in 1994, Flores was among his most loyal allies. Once he became president in 1999, she remained firmly by his side, defending his policies and consolidating her own position. In 2006, she became the first woman to lead Venezuela's National Assembly, taking over the role from Maduro himself. In 2012, Cilia was appointed Attorney General, just months before Chavez died and a year before Maduro assumed the presidency. Flores married Maduro in June 2013, more than 20 years after they first met.
Nos casó.
We got married. Official celebrant of the revolution, Jorge Rodriguez, married us, officially.
Oficial de la revolución.
Before that, she had 3 children with Walter Gaviria, a former member of Chavez's security forces. Maduro has 1 son, Nicolas Maduro Guerra, from his first marriage to Adriana Guerra Angulo, and his later appointment to several high-level government roles is a detail critics often point to when raising allegations of favoritism. Flores also has an adopted son, Efrain Antonio Campo Flores, who is her nephew, and this is where the controversy intensifies. Over the years, Flores has faced repeated allegations ranging from nepotism to corruption and abuse of power. She is a key figure in Venezuelan corruption, absolutely key, and especially in the power structure, said Zaire Mundaray, who served as a senior prosecutor under Chavez and Maduro. Many consider her far more astute and cunning than Maduro himself. Behind the scenes, Ms. Flores is widely believed to exercise decisive control over Venezuela's judiciary. Judges and senior officials are reportedly loyal to her personally or owe their positions to her influence. For more than 2 decades, the courts have been effectively politicized, failing to issue a single ruling against the state. Investigative reporters have repeatedly linked the Maduro-Flores inner circle to large-scale corruption schemes, from the misuse of public funds to opaque business relationships with sanctioned foreign figures. One investigation went further, revealing that the family has quietly consolidated an entire street of luxury homes in Caracas, an extraordinary display of power in a country mired in economic collapse. At one point, nearly 40 of her relatives reportedly held government positions. Flores dismissed these claims as a smear campaign, calling journalists mercenaries of the pen. Even members of the ruling party criticized the situation, and some relatives were eventually removed, though several later resurfaced elsewhere in government. As Maduro's presidency unfolded, Venezuela slid deeper into authoritarian rule. His administration has been accused by international organizations of widespread human rights violations, unlawful detentions, and policies that worsened food shortages and mass displacement. While Maduro became the global face of the crisis, many Venezuelans increasingly saw Flores as an equal partner in power. Publicly, the couple leaned into a softer image, holding hands, exchanging affectionate looks, and using pet names in front of cameras. In 2015, Flores even launched a reality-style TV show, Con Cilia and Familia, presenting herself as warm, maternal, and approachable. Critics noted the contrast between that image and the political reality unfolding in the country, and audiences didn't exactly rush to embrace the show. By 2019, amid mass protests and international recognition of opposition leader Juan Guaidó, anger wasn't aimed at Maduro alone. Insiders and critics alike began openly saying Flores shared responsibility. She has since been sanctioned by multiple countries, including the United States, and barred from entering Colombia. When sanctions were announced, Maduro publicly defended her, saying, "You don't mess with Cilia. You don't mess with family. Don't be cowards. Her only crime is being my wife." That line only reinforced the sense that in this presidency, family and power are deeply intertwined.